And he claimed our caps on mains. You jumped, never asking why. You logged and said under your breath it was a loss no one could deny. Don't you ever say goons just run away. We will always fight you. Your leaders always lie, spinning like a top. We will always fight you. Goons came in like a wrecking ball. We never hit F1 so hard. All they wanted was to break our walls. All we ever did was wreck legacy. Yeah, we wrecked legacy. We put fighters high up in space, and now you're not logging in. It slowly turned you, let me burn, and now we're ashes on the ground. Don't you ever say goons just run away. We will always fight you. Leaders always lie, spinning like a top. We will always fight you. Goons came in like a wrecking ball. We never hit F1 so hard. All they wanted was to break our walls. All we ever did was wreck legacy. Goons came in like a wrecking ball. We never hit F1 so hard. All they wanted was to break our walls. All we ever did was wreck legacy. Yeah, we wrecked legacy. You thought you'd win this war. We just wanted you to fight us. And instead of logging in, I guess we should have let you win. You thought you'd win this war. We just wanted you to fight us. I guess we should have let you in. Don't you ever say goons just run away. We will always fight you. Goons came in like a wrecking ball. We never hit F1 so hard. All they wanted was to break our walls. All we ever did was wreck legacy. Goons came in like a wrecking ball. Yeah, we just closed our eyes and swung. That popped me crashing in a blazing roar. All we ever did was wreck legacy. Yeah, we wrecked legacy. Yeah, we wrecked legacy.
About a month and a half, there was this weird rumor apparently going around about our office because all of a sudden people would show up and go, "Is this the men's club? You know, where are the women?" Just walk in off.
Like they thought you were a gentleman's club.
Oh, we were a gentleman's club. Yeah.
What was the name of your agency? Was it something tongue in cheek
no.
that made it think it was a gentleman's club? Like,
No, it was the agency was called Giant Ideas, but which that doesn't really. Not
Really? Is that a metaphor? Is that a metaphor?
mean-
Giant something else.
Giant
Right.
something. I'm not sure where you're going there. Hey, welcome everybody to a new episode of Push to Talk, where we don't talk about anything related to Eve, but we've got some wonderful guests today. We've got Rick Javix, who bears the distinction of the only Eve player I know who is locally close to me, which is very strange.
That's true.
Yeah, and I should have asked this before. Arcia, is that how you pronounce it, Elkin?
Yeah, it's good.
Perfect.
You've got the wrong photo for me, dude.
Really? Oh well, I got the wrong one. So I'll fix
That's
it.
right.
I'll fix it.
That's
We'll,
all right.
we'll take that down, baby. Don't worry about it.
No,
So-
just leave it up.
jurors,
That's great. That's
we're
the
leaving
meaning for the
jurors.
whole
We're
thing.
leaving up. We're leaving up for the whole thing. Okay. I love the hair though. It's very cool. You
I
know,
was going to say, I
It's
wish I
very-
had hair that nice.
it's very 80s, hairband. Well, not hair. Yeah, 80s. Yeah. Okay. It's nice. I like it. So that's you from now on, Tris.
There we go. Yeah,
This is what happens when when you don't get on video. You just get what you get.
that's right.
You know, it's
This is what happens when Eric is running the show.
I'm always running the show. It's why it's so shit all the time. We're not pro here.
I didn't say it was normally better than that.
You're lucky we actually have all the sound working today. Roxette, yeah, you're right, Manchita. So anyway, we've got a CSM edition, which was all set up with lots of hard work by Dirk, who didn't show up, and we don't know where he is. So we're gonna lean on Horrendous here because he's now the pro.
Hi.
Hi.
Credits.
You guys missed the pre-show cat talk. It was very riveting. We're sorry you can't share in that part of the show as the audience, but just know we had riveting cat talk earlier, so it was great.
It had to do with murderous sociopathy and pissing in the house.
I miss cats.
I thought you were going to be talking about the midgets and the gorillas.
Don't talk about no.
Don't.
I don't want
Don't-
to hear that story.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
By the way, Dawn was here earlier, and I think she was driving around. I don't know if she's going home, but we may have cats meowing on the show if she gets home and gets on chat yet today. So
And then there will be midgets and gorillas.
midgets and gorillas.
Gorillas and cats. Come here.
So we also have Angry Mustache, Horrendous, Sothersill, the McLeod, and of course myself. So
It
welcome
should be
everyone.
noted all of the people listed after Angry Mustache are not running for the CSM.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Angry's running for CSM. That's great. I'll get it. I'll get the wrong picture up for him too here as we do the show.
That's why he's here, Eric.
Yeah, I know. He wasn't here when I was doing prep. I'm sorry. Just the way it is. All vodka today, by the way. Just vodka and ice today. The whole show. That's how we're working it.
I should go get something to drink.
Can I claim that my wada is vodka?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Here, vodka.
Yeah, see, it's all vodka. See, it's welcome to Vodka Saturday, folks.
Yeah, this isn't apple juice in this glass. This is Fireball.
Fireball. Oh, yeah, that'll get you going on the golf course. By the way, this is my desperate plea to Titleist to please sponsor the show and send us some golf balls because I keep losing them.
Everything will be about golf.
And Rix and I say we should be on the golf course days because it's one of the few lovely days here in our town of haze and cloudiness. So yeah, we're here for you guys out there for your viewing enjoyment because we should be out being athletic and
Dude,
drinking
it's
beer
annoyingly
and
warm
smoking
out there.
cigars.
Sounds really great.
I'd like to make a special announcement to say hi to Caleb, who's resting up right now because he's had a bit of a rough kind of thing, like having to go to a trip to hospital and also get his COVID jab. So like he's under the weather, but he's watching. So hey, Caleb.
Hey, Caleb.
Shout out to
We
Caleb.
miss
you.
Better.
And
We
to
noticed
make
we
sure
replaced
that
you with
everyone-
Rix. He's the new guy. You're out. Rix is in. That's the way it works. Sorry.
Just to make sure everyone understands that we will be properly appreciative of everything Caleb has done. This week, while he is unable to participate in the discussions and cannot defend himself, we will abuse you mercilessly, dude. Glad you're watching.
Love you, buddy. Alrighty. So who wants to start this? And I'm gonna go work on the background and get Angry Mustache in here as well. And by the way, we have the wrong picture for Juris Doctor, just so everybody knows that was my mistake earlier, but he demanded that it stay wrong to just make me feel bad the whole show. So
No,
We're leaving
it's
it.
just because I'm all kinds of bent. So it's good to have something to make me laugh.
I'm very self-deprecating. I don't care. It's just fun to say.
I think to keep it traditional for Push to Talk, and since Arcia claimed that she can talk about food for 2 hours, let's talk
There you
about
go.
what's on the table today.
Well, we do need to know some food information from each of the people running for CSM because it is critical to their expertise to be able to go to Iceland where there is no good food. in my opinion.
So though he's not here, I'm actually going to preempt this and say Dirk did ask me to start contributing to Friday articles about food because I am a notoriously good cook, and I will be sharing a link from Pastebin with chat for my 5-alarm chili. So you'll be having that in about 2 seconds here when I pull the Pastebin up.
That's excellent.
Nice.
I love chili. I'm a fan.
And I give both vegetarian and meat-enabled options in the recipe. I did just get a block from it, though, so you're going to have to permit me to post it. I've been timed out.
Let me.
I'm glad to see that I am still banned from Twitch chat. So
I'll see if I can do it.
Yeah, McLeod can do it. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go, guys.
I found good food in Iceland when I went in 2016 for FanFest. Well, not Icelandic food, but like I found good tacos and I found good ramen. And a good Indian place, like an Indian food place. that I really loved.
Did you go to Tommy's Burgers while you were there?
I was about
No.
to say, I hear a lot
No,
of things
I've
about
eaten
that.
there.
Oh,
too. It's good. It's
Tommy's
really good.
Burgers is the best.
Yep.
It might be one of the best burger places I've ever been to.
The taco place closed down, sadly, but they were good tacos too.
I assume I probably can't eat at Tommy's Burgers because I'm vegan.
Oh, there you go.
Unless they have a burger.
I think they
then-
might have the Impossible
Yeah.
Burger there as well.
Then maybe I can.
Eric, you muted.
Here's a funny story for you. Eric,
Yeah,
you're
so-
muted.
Great. So my daughter, who is young, she's got she wasn't feeling well, and we were going out to eat, and we said, "What do you want us to bring back?" And she goes, "Well, I want the Impossible Burger, but with beef." I'm sitting there. You just can't say you want it like a hamburger or a cheeseburger. No, she has to say she wants the Impossible Burger with beef. It was just very bizarre. We were
So
laughing.
just a normal hamburger.
She was
Yeah.
setting you up. She was setting
Yeah,
you up.
then she decided she wanted to come, so we had to go. My wife had to drive back, pick her up at home, and bring her to the.
That was like one of those Sphinx riddles, right? She was trying to see what your reaction would be.
I don't know what she's definitely a fun child to have. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
She's standing right next to you, isn't she?
no, she's not. I think she's
probably says
outside. We put her to work. She's outside weeding.
This probably says too much about my childhood, but my dad in that situation would drive back, but then he'd take my skateboard out of the back and tie the rope to the back of the bumper and go, "Okay, because you're the last one, this is how you ride with us."
Oh, geez.
Damn.
He was joking, of course. We didn't actually do that. Well,
The-
there were some times that I did surf behind the car on a skateboard. Growing
one
up in the
time-
80s.
The one time I had the Impossible Burger, though, I was kind of annoyed. It was at Vegas at that Guy Ferrari place, and like they had the burger, but they didn't have like any buns I could eat, so I had to eat it with a lettuce wrap, which was like just annoying to me because it's like this upscale place, and I'm basically eating it with my hands.
Wow. That's pretty sad. I think they would do better than that.
Yeah.
How did they not have a bun you could eat?
Because they carry the burger, but they don't carry buns without milk. Or
That's one thing actually that I'm glad that veganism and a lot of the the gluten-free movement has been doing is that my sister-in-law has celiac, and it has become infinitely easier for her to eat out and like go to restaurants and actually eat food, because everybody who's all about like their diets and their fads and kicks are all like, do you have gluten-free buns? So now she literally can eat anywhere.
Yeah, it's good for people.
yeah, you can eat most places. there's something, even if it's not the best something, you can find something.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we want to know about food? What we're having? What we're on the plans for today? Or
Absolutely, you can talk anything.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
I'm definitely not a vegan. So after this, we're going to the farmer's market and pick out some dead cow, and I'm going to bring that home and cook it on the grill. And
I have a question for my fellow candidates.
Yes.
If there was only one food you could eat for the next 3 months, and you're only allowed to prepare and eat that one food, and it was considered non-harmful to your physiology to only eat that one food, like if you could pick just one thing to eat for 90 days, what would it be?
Pizza.
Sushi.
Steak. I'd probably have a heart attack, but it'd be worth it.
I love the answer in chat. Hot Pocket.
Hot Pocket.
I'm pretty sure it's written in my lease that I gotta simp for pizza. So
Tapas.
Simping for pizza.
Yeah, pizza's an easy one because it has a lot of good stuff on it, right? I mean, it's bread, cheese.
You can make
meat,
all sorts of different types as well.
well,
yeah.
it's in every New Yorker's lease that they gotta never shut up about pizza ever.
Right? For me, I think it's pitas. Oh, you lost all your scene data. Oh,
no, yeah. It's just
Exactly.
it's a scene transition to. I updated
Gotcha.
the actual scene when I had angry.
There you go. But yeah, for me, I think it would be pitas, like pita sandwiches, like stuffed pitas. Oh, so good.
I'm kind of mad no one here mentioned ramen at all.
Oh,
I thought
I'm a
somebody
little
mentioned
ramened
it.
out because I lived in Vancouver for 15 years, and there's literally 130 ramen restaurants in Vancouver, and I've eaten at every single one of them. So I can do without
means
ramen for a while.
You probably did have it for 3 months continuously.
Yeah, he probably did.
True. My friend Vic and I, every day, anytime we had the opportunity, we'd go for ramen together, and we'd pick a different place. So I've had charcoal ramen. I've had every kind of like shoyu ramen.
I really miss a lot of the ramen places that I like in Tokyo. I used to go to Tokyo every year. And then the pandemic happened. And so it's been like almost 2 years since I've been there at this point. And I like miss all of my favorite food places from there because.
Have you been to the ramen mall?
I've been to, have you ever eaten at Tokyo Station?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having like memories of how good the food was there.
I just open my phone sometimes and I look at it's just like all pictures of food because I am that kind of person where like I travel places and 90% of what I do is eat.
The best thing with
Is it
Japan
like
is
a-
those little
like a
hole in the
street-
walls.
Is it like a street food sort of stall place?
Tokyo
Not
Station's
so much street food.
no. There's a lot of little like near the train stations. There's a lot of little malls that only open during certain hours of the day that are just food stalls on both sides for the whole building. And there'll be like the little cell phone repair place or like small electronic stores in there or like a grocer,
Yeah,
but it's mostly just like street food. Like you can get places that just sell tonkatsu and like little snack bars and bakeries and stuff, and it's so good. But the best are in the business districts, in the alleyways between the office towers. There's always these back alley little ramen restaurants and little barbecue bars and stuff, and you'll walk in and there are these little hole in the wall places, and you only know they're there because they put out this little clapboard sign, and it's the best food you've ever tasted because all they do is serve Japanese salarymen all day long, and those are the only people who know those restaurants are there because they go there every lunch.
So the best little tiny hole in the wall I ever found in Tokyo is in Ikebukuro, and it's literally like smaller than my like New York apartment, and it sells gyoza. They have it's like the buns, the little buns, like rainbow gyoza, and it's been run by this Taiwanese woman for like 40 years that she's been running this place, and it's just like the best I've ever had. Like you could miss it, so it's like the easiest place to miss. It's literally like the smallest little tiny, it almost looks like a closet, right? You go in there and I want that so bad now.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's Tojo's in Vancouver. He's one of the Japanese chefs abroad from Japan who is extremely famous. He's considered a Japanese cultural treasure. He's the guy who created the California roll. back in the 80s. He had a bunch of California residents who were coming up to Vancouver for vacation, and he wanted sushi that he could introduce them to where they weren't immediately introduced to the seaweed. So he put the rice on the outside, and he made it something that they could eat with their hands, and it just kind of took off. And now everybody in the world does California rolls. But omakase with him, which is basically you say, these are the foods I like, make me something and surprise me, is like $200 a plate with him. And I would pay gladly twice that because it's amazing.
Imagine having money.
I just go with the good old. There's only two places I love the most. One is obviously being where I'm from, Permanis, as Rick's will probably attest to. Their sandwiches are outstanding, and then of course my favorite little Italian place in Hilton Head, which is Giuseppe's Pizza.
Well, Giuseppe's is awesome too. Yeah,
I know it. I mean, by the way, I learned that they bring down Saloni's bread for all their
their
hoagies. Wow. Yeah, and it's the only
wow.
Saloni's does that special, so that's a big deal, man.
Yeah, nice,
super yummy. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
One thing I've never tried.
Disclosure: I do work for Permanis. So.
Do you? Oh yeah, you're probably one of your customers, or
they are. Yeah, I do social media content for them. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. That's good to know.
Yeah, they're awesome guys.
It'll kill you, as you can tell from my physique, Permanis, but it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Do they make cubanos too?
I think they have. I don't know.
No, here's the thing. So you know,
it's a weird thing. So
yeah,
Eric will explain the Permanis sandwich.
Fresh baked Italian bread, sliced by hand, warmed meat and cheese, and a special sweet and sour slaw with French fries, fresh cut and fried French fries, all in one. Throw a bunch of Trappy's Red Devil hot sauce on those babies. You know, if you're really excited, throw a fried egg on those, and they're just phenomenal.
Oh, so good with a fried egg.
Yeah.
It got started in the Strip District here in Pittsburgh. Late night, it was the perfect sandwich to have after you got blasted at the clubs.
Yeah,
and you were toasted. Everybody would stumble into Permanis at 2:00 or 3:00 in the morning and have a greasy sandwich.
And it was standing room only, and you'd see people in tuxes all the way. Everything, man, it's great.
I don't know. That sounds mildly disturbing. I mean, hand warmed meat. That's
not hand warmed meat.
It's hand warmed meat. Yeah, that would be disgusting.
Yeah, that would be kind of scary.
You walk in and there's just an old guy named Clive with a handful of roast beef.
Well, you never know. But yeah, they have all kinds of stuff. But yeah, they got the flat grill going, and they warm it all up, and it's really good. It's phenomenal. It was actually originally created for the truckers because that was the produce district, so they could get a meal that they could just hold in their hand and eat the whole meal. But yeah, go on YouTube.
It's definitely a meal on a sandwich.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you can only eat half. They're so good though.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
one of my favorite authors made a line in his book that I thought was hilarious until I actually thought about it and realized how true it was, which is the character in the book says, "I'm American. I can eat anything as long as it's sandwiched between two slices of bread."
There you go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, forgot the tomatoes, fresh sliced tomatoes on the sandwich as well.
It has to be white bread though.
It is Italian bread. White Italian bread.
Italian bread. Yeah.
That's still white.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, before Twitch
we'll riots, between rye bread too.
How about we scoot this slightly over into the Eve corner?
Go for it. Take us there, Soth.
Right. So I see this a lot where people seem to misunderstand what the CSM is actually for, what their actual job is. So do you guys want to talk about a bit what you think and what you feel like your job as a CSM would be and hopefully will be?
Sure, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. And I think, well, it also depends on how you look at history. There have been times when the CSM's job has changed and evolved over time. But generally speaking, the way things stand today, it's basically a test audience. We listen to player feedback. We're the contact for the players when CCP is actively in development of patches or expansions. The CSM acts as a focus group to catch early problems, to see issues that might be developing down the road, and also to give feedback on plans. So there's three types, right? There's things that are already in the works, near future things that are coming, and then down the road long term. And that's essentially the scope of work, scope of influence for the CSM. However, there is a component that doesn't often get mentioned, is that you have FaceTime with developers, you have FaceTime with the people who work there. So there is a component of getting to know each of the devs, what their responsibilities are. And also, I'm really hogging the conversation, so I'll turn it over to.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Well.
We got plenty of time. We'll have all the time you guys need.
That is essentially the CSM's job in a nutshell.
I'll just go straight down the page there. Arcia, your comments?
I mostly agree with what Rick said. I mean, the CSM, their main job is to listen to the community and convey. They obviously can't tell the community what CCP brings to them because of the NDA, but by listening to the problems the community has, they can respond to the ideas that CCP brings to the table and try to make sure they understand the implications of what they're proposing and how the players might react to certain things. Because there's a lot of times when CCP has this idea of how an event is going to go on their head, but they might not have the full view of how some blocks of players interact with the game. And I think the best example of this is the invasion content. The invasion content was expected to be a lot smaller than it was in participation. They didn't really expect an organized EdenCom block of players. They expected just locals to defend their territory. And they planned this whole thing out without really considering that a lot more people were going to participate in it than did, and that a lot of players would feel shafted at the end of it. And I think a CSM who had insight in various communities that participated might have been able to communicate that before the event was proposed.
Cool. How about you? Oh, who was going to talk?
I was going to say, Jurius here. I 100% agree with what Arcia just said. I also find it hugely dumbfounding that with 18 years of data and the fact that, Hilmar loves to go on about how good their data is, that they couldn't figure out that EVE players, the apex of min-maxing autists, wouldn't gamify the whole invasion content into just spurg-fleeting and completely owning that shit. How CCP? Please tell me how you didn't see that coming. And then the fact that they didn't have any content planned for either side in the event that one side loses or the other. They only had win scenarios planned and no consolation prizes whatsoever. So, people feeling shafted, I think that's absolutely the correct way to feel when somebody does half the homework and pushes it to production. And it's better than it's ever been. So, as much as it sounds like, we're being a little unfair to CCP, they've done more in the last 3 years than they did in the first 15 in terms of development. The pace of development has been incredible. They're turning out content like crazy. The problem is they're also turning out content at a pace that says, are we really giving it enough time for quality assurance? Are we really spending enough time to make sure that all the bugs are worked out, or that we've thoroughly vetted this through the CSM and asked, hey, how do you think this is going to be received? Because Rix and Arcia are both right. Our role is to be there in large part, and in the biggest way, to stand as a united face and say, these are your worst harebrained schemes. Please don't do X, Y, and Z. But this other shit, this is okay. Yeah, let this go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Angry, you got a response? Or any comment?
So the point I would say is that compared to what from what George says, that CCP is working more in these 3 years than they are in the past 15s. I don't think that actually is the case, because when I'm looking at the patch notes for the past X years, and other than Pochvin, everything else is basically a database change. All these features they're doing, they're basically database flags and removing some attributes from one item, adding to another item, which is a source of frustration for me, at least, because database changes shouldn't take this long. But that
Well,
Well,
give me an opportunity to rebut that by saying that yes, a lot of what they've changed is database. But keep in mind that in the last 4 years, they've also removed all of the legacy code, bad code, unfinished projects, and hard-coded missions, including a lot of the old Cosmos missions, that were preventing us from having 64-bit clients, from having larger fights, from being able to scale the game out to platforms like Azure to see if we can get rid of tie-dye. Like, a lot of the work that they've been doing is cleanup from 15 years of people not documenting their code. So
Azure-
let's not say that they didn't do a lot of work.
let's
Except for
be
code, right?
let's be clear, folks. Putting your database in the cloud isn't going to reduce your latency
Of course,
to your app tier.
But-
Okay,
but the other
so
side of this,
Azure
though, is
isn't
that-
going to solve your problem, and Azure doesn't scale either.
No,
So-
but they've
Yeah.
introduced also in the last 4 years, they've introduced Citadels, they've introduced the Drifters, they've introduced 2 whole new factions, Edencom and the Triglavians. They've introduced new areas of instanced space. So let's give them credit where credit's due.
I give them
We also-
100% credit for introducing Drifters, which was a phenomenal success in stupidity.
And unfortunately, the storyline died on the vine.
Well, like the thing about the Drifters and Triglavians is it seems to be like the third time we've had the same kind of outside invader story pop up, because we had the whole incursion thing way back when,
Yeah.
and Drifters and Triglavians. It feels like the RP community kind of calls it like the invader flavor of the month, and There's a lot of-
flavor of the
there's a
month.
lot
I
of
like that.
there's a lot of fantastic factions in EVE Online that need more development. Things, and even like ship lines and stuff, like the pirate ship lines. Why isn't there an Angel Cartel Dreadnought or something? Why aren't there destroyers and battle cruisers for the pirates instead of we
yes,
need Eden common trig ships?
Not the pessimist comment is that because those aren't database changes.
Yeah, but
Well, I'll
feels
challenge you on that thing, because if you look at their design twitch that they did, a fair amount of their application code is coded in the database, and anybody who knows anything about application development and putting your code in the database tier, that's the most inefficient code that you can write, and that's the wrong place to put it. Plus, you double your CPU utilization both for your queries and for your app, right? So yeah, they've got challenges there from a design perspective.
Well, and
Right.
some there's other quibbles like memory leaks and stuff that we've been seeing lately.
Yeah, SQL Server has no memory leaks.
But to get back to what I was trying to say, like it feels like they keep going back to the well of this outside invader story, empires unite to Gur, when EVE Online, I think, has like one of the best fictional universes ever created for anything.
100%.
It's one of my, like, I'm only in this game because of how cool the universe is and how it works. Like everything I do in the game impacts like the actual story and the actual world that we all share. And I think that like doing the same thing with outside invader empires, go Gur at it together, is over and over and over again. Isn't necessarily, you don't need to make up more factions. We have these underdeveloped factions. I think the EOM stuff was fantastic because they were the most underdeveloped faction in EVE Online lore. I think that they keep adding these new things and then like never expanding on them when they have all this stuff that they need to expand on.
Yeah, I agree. And I love the fact that both you and Uriel are running this year. I think that we need more people from the story driven community to get in front of CCP because, yeah, they've been reduxing the whole outside invaders thing in the same way that people keep refreshing the Terminator franchise every few years, and it never seems to get any better. And I mean, yes, that's a dig at the Cameron and all those guys, but they deserve it. And even with just the factions they brought in, like the whole development of the Sisters of Eve as a storyline and as a group, and then the factions within the Sisters of Eve, we haven't had any new content on that. And there's so many exciting things that they could do. There's so many directions they could take that in with. Like, what if it turns out the SOE have been working with the Drifters? What if there's something that they're both terrified of? And there's all these possible story arcs that we just, I want to sink my teeth into those stories, but I don't see anybody driving it.
Don't you
And
see potential though with what they're doing right now with the empires basically getting ready for war again?
so
Yeah,
the
but
Foundation
Yeah.
quadrant leaves a lot of the RPers cautiously optimistic.
Mhm,
We
agreed.
we are actually very cautiously optimistic about this Foundation quadrant and some of the Hobo League stuff that has been popping up for the Liberation Day is really, really promising. Tattoos for the 7 tribes of the Minmatar Republic, and it seems like there's going to be like an event around it where you can choose which tribe you want to rep, and I think that idea sounds fantastic. So I am hoping that this quadrant that seems really, really cool is in fact really, really cool. So far, I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed the opening to it a lot with the EOM stuff.
There's a little bit of baby steps there too. Like I want them to get this one thing right, and I want them to get another couple of things right. But I also want CCP to eventually come to the realization that you can have more than one plot arc happening at a time, and you don't have to do it in sacrifice to all of the other plot arcs that you've already started.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, but I mean, Jurius and you guys, there's a history here of CCP always doing this, right? They announce really great things and then they don't support them after they've launched, and that's pretty much been their pattern for
Eve has
13
a
years
revolving
or more.
chair of executive producers when you really need one person because of the time scale that Eve is both played and developed. You need an executive producer in place for maybe not a decade, but longer than 2 to 3 years. Because a lot of things
absolutely.
Oh,
you see Seagull start, she didn't get to finish off because she left.
Yep.
And like Soundwave was there for 3 years, I think. And then
Yeah, but-
I forgot who was between Soundwave and Seagull, but from Seagull to now, Eve had, I think, until a year ago,
The
Eve hasn't
universe.
had one.
But
So there
good-
was not
good-
one guy with their hand on their tiller to actually guide the direction of the game. And whenever
Yeah.
a new EP comes in, the direction of the ship shifts to what the new EP wants, and that is why we have so much abandoned stuff.
It's like a shotgun approach, right? They're just shooting a lot of little pieces of things at us all the time to keep us entertained and distracted from the fact that some of those older things haven't never been touched.
I mean, on the one hand, good for Seagull, for Andy, for moving on. I'm so glad that she's able to move on to something better for her. And I feel that way about all the devs who've left. We develop relationships with the devs. We get to know the members of the community team really well over the years, and it does seem that CCP has a short attention span habit of every 3 years, just like turfing the entire team and then hiring them new, which I really hope they don't do this time because they have a really good team and they've actually started making some really good moves
Yeah.
of hiring.
This is
Like
the best
hiring-
team ever, honestly.
Hiring new analysts, new player researchers, getting actual data people in there again. I mean, the only thing that I think that they could go farther is find somebody new with better access to tools who can take the seat that was vacated a long time ago by Dr. E when he went to go be a proctor of a university and get an actual economist in there to start tying these pieces together and start tying some of the industry ideas in so that they aren't so disruptive to day-to-day Eve, but you still accomplish the same tasks, like putting handbrakes on capitals and some of the things they've been trying to do, and effectively so. Like say what you will about the recent industry changes, but they're working as designed. Prices on capitals have bloomed to the point that nobody's going to be risking them, and no one wants to build new ones.
Sorry, but I got a duck out of space meeting.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Have a good
okay.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, cheers, man.
But you're right. I think that, like, when's the last time we had a Serpentis or a Sanchez storyline? That wasn't just
I'm gonna
like a
have to-
footnote in, oh, hey, Upwell Corporation bought ore back from those guys. Like,
I'm
the
going to
footnote-
have to duck out too, but before I go, I would just like to point out that you've got one thing exactly backwards there. CCP does not want people not wanting to risk capitals. CCP, like Rattati specifically, we have spoken, he has told me they want people using these things. They want these things blowing up. They do not want people not risking them. And that's something that they are looking for a way to fix. And it is a significant concern of his that the economy stuff has basically become an obstacle to that.
It's
They're
kind of
looking for
a
ways
it's kind
to
of a
remove the obstacles.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22 for them, right? They
It
want to crank up the rarity of resources so that things aren't as
so they don't get
plentiful. But
replaced as
right,
easily, but they also
right.
want
But
to
they
give
also
them
don't want it to make it so bad that nobody uses them.
exactly. Which one
Unfortunately,
of
is where we're at until they start replacing the stuff they've taken away.
it's not so much that as the big reason that the big reason that you can't afford to lose these things is you need these things.
Right.
So if super capitals and capitals become less necessary for holding space, they'll get thrown
Used
away more.
less. Right.
No, I think they'll get
used
used
more.
I think they'll get used more because people can afford to lose them, and that's something that they are looking for ways to facilitate. Anyway, I got to take off. I got to get to the same meeting as Angry, so I'll catch you guys later.
All right,
Cheers,
thanks,
man.
Ernest. See you. So I have a question for each of you remaining, right? And then we'll do the same. We'll do reverse. We'll start with the doctor at the bottom there. So in the example where the CSM was presented, certain things like, let's take work rules for instance, right? And they were matter of factly told this is a bad idea, right? But CCP roundly ignored them. Right? How would you handle that? How would you say to CCP, guys, you really got to listen to us, right? You're making a big mistake here. How would you guys handle that? Because I think it's going to happen in the future, and plus, I think they withhold too much from the CSM as well. But
I think some of that though, the CSM is going to always be fighting an uphill battle there because some of that's cultural. And I'll forward this by saying that Icelandic people don't go into meetings to talk about how they want to change something. They go to meetings to talk about the thing that they've changed, and they're disseminating information to the people who are in that meeting. This is the way it is. We're proceeding. What's your feedback on this direction? They're not looking for pushback. They're looking to tell you what they're changing. So the CSM's job is immediately very difficult because they are getting better about being more open to this, but some of it is a cultural component.
Arcia? Working on.
Yeah. So I don't know much about Icelandic culture, but there are, in most cases, they're not going to scrap something they built from the top down. So you have to tell them the truth and how you think it will affect the game. But you have to try as hard as you can to get whatever improvements you can from a situation that's being proposed. Because let's take Pochven, for example. They're not going to scrap Pochven after they've developed it, right? But maybe if you argue beforehand that the gate lock is really bad and is going to negatively affect it, maybe you can get that part taken out. So you have to be honest with what you think, but you also have to try to aim at things that you think you can change when you're talking to them, I think, because they're not going to scrap a full idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Rix?
There's some truth to what Arcia said. And, the thing I've learned over the last 13 years of talking with and working with, and, Workhorse Stabs is a good example of that, is when I first started talking about that with devs, it was, this is what you have to do. And I quickly realized that the best way to approach the devs is with a solution built in already. And the way to get things accomplished is to already have an alternative plan in place, and ideas in place for getting something taken care of. Telling them no is usually a way to get yourself ignored at FanFest or blackballed from different discussions. So ultimately, however, I think the thing that comes down to is, as a CSM member, I feel personally that there may come a time when you have to sacrifice everything that you've done in order to stand up to something if you believe in it strongly enough. And I think a great example of that is, Summer of Rage, what happened with Incarna. And, not enough people stood up and called them out on it until the emergency meeting was held. And then that's when everybody put their backs to the wall and told them that they were being silly. as we all know, they're devs. They're creating a game. We're the ones playing it. We're the power in the room, not CCP. If it wasn't for players, there wouldn't be a game. So, in a way, they have to listen to us. And I think you have to realize that when you're going into a room with them, that the real power in the room is with the players and with the CSM and not with the devs. And if there's something that you drastically don't agree with or believe it's bad for the game, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything to stand up and put your foot down.
Good. Let's see. Cloud, you got any questions?
Not off the top of my head, but I probably will have in a moment.
You had a freaking week to prepare for this.
I think if I can throw a thought in here, and this is
sure.
I'm asking this both as a question and positing a position at the same time. So the position that I have is, and this is something a lot of people don't realize, but I've heard this a lot, and I'm sure Rix, you've encountered this yourself, is that the stuff that we think the CSM has talked to CCP about and makes it into the game, the stuff that we think is truly terrible, is the least bad of the ideas that have been presented to the CSM most of the time. Like, I don't think people realize how effective the CSM are at killing their harebrained schemes. And yes, CCP does need to get a little bit better about killing their darlings, in the sense that sometimes, yeah, you've spent a little time developing a certain chain, but if it's a truly bad idea, sorry, it's back to the blackboard. You've got to get good at doing that. My question is, if you're faced by a decision by CCP to proceed with something, regardless of the CSM's commitments, and regardless of their comments, and regardless of this CSM like standing up and flailing their arms and going, my God, this is terrible, like an inflatable flailing arm, inflatable tube man, like, please stop this. This is a terrible idea. How do you, as the CSM, see yourselves making your displeasure known while still trying to maintain that relationship with CCP after it's public?
I mean, I think it's perfectly reasonable to disagree with somebody politely. Not pull any punches, but not give personal insults. If you just give your opinion about something being bad. Like if I talk about when I talk about a game feature that I think is bad, or a game mechanic that I think is bad, it's not a personal insult to the CCP developer. And I think any one of them that's not a child can see that, right? So I think it's fine to just talk about things in plain terms, that this so-and-so mechanic is bad. It's bad for XYZ reasons. Don't have to insult anybody personally, and everybody can be adults about it, I think.
I totally agree. I think that we're all adults here, right? But here I am sitting in a Twitch stream in which I am banned from the Twitch chat for standing up for something once and getting banned from INN Twitch chat. I'm still banned. I went an entire fan fest with half of the devs not talking to me and ignoring myself and my wife because I stood up for something that I believed in, because the CCP had reneged on a contract that they had signed with me. So, fighting for what you believe in, sacrificing, your standing in the community, having people think that you're a beggar or a whatever they think about you, that's something you got to be willing to take on. And I think that there are opportunities for being adults, having disagreements with particular devs, but also still getting that message out to the community that what you're standing for is more important than your personal standing in that community. So I think there's a lot of, I hope there's not. But to Juris's point, we heard just recently, these Sino changes that everybody's up in arms about. That wasn't the first time. It's like that's 6 plans down. CCP came to the CSM with 6 different versions of that, which is what finally came out. I mean, what the hell did those other 5 versions look like? That we don't know. So the CSM is, anybody who says the CSM doesn't matter, let's just think about that for a moment. What was that first idea? That took 6 rounds to get to where it is now. How bad was it?
And that's what I worry about is I've been asked several times, why are you running? And I run because I teach new bros. That's what I do. And I see kind of the frontline experience players have in terms of what are the frustrations they encounter? How do the mechanics affect new players? Sino changes don't. Unless they're in alt of another character and somebody's injecting up to be able to have another Sino tune, Sino changes don't affect new players for the most part. If they're getting sent somewhere, if they're getting scooped up by Horde and sent out on fleets, they'll experience what a Sino looks like, and they'll get to travel to one, but it's not impacting them. What I care about and where I tend to focus my energies is on the effectiveness of the CSM, because yeah, if we've had 6 versions of something and people are still upset with it, how much of that is the community just, complaining about something? And my feeling is that, like Rick said, if you can't bring an idea to the table, if you can't bring constructive criticism and recommendations for change with your complaints, then you're just complaining. It's just bitching at that point. And a big part of the effectiveness of the CSM relies on the idea that you have people who are in the room who are mature, even-tempered, well-minded, aware of the game mechanics and the things that affect the community, and that are able to talk truth to CCP in a way that isn't dismissive, isn't just, bullishly standing up and yelling no, and isn't monopolizing time on any particular one topic, regardless of what the purpose of the meeting originally was. And the problem is that in the past, we've had a high number of CSM members that longtime CSM incumbents have said, just completely detracted from the meeting or made the minutes a running scrawl of somebody's pet project that they needed to have aired. And if we're going to be effective and continue to be effective as a CSM, I personally feel that, one of the things CCP should look at doing is re-expanding the number of CSM members. I think we need more than 10 to fully capture all the different play styles and the people who are in this game and the mechanics that need to be touched on. And I feel like we need to, as a community, make sure we're electing people who are effective. And I think that on this panel right now, we've got a couple of people, I'd say all of us, fit in that category of people who are able to sit in front of CCP and raise very good points and say no for the right reasons.
So you guys talked about what you would do if you had something like a change you really didn't like and you thought would be bad for the game. I want to expand on that. Do you think that it would be better for each CSM to make their point on their own and say that they don't like it, or do you think it's better that they all get together and present it unanimously as one CSM?
I think the answer to that's pretty simple. I think the first response to anything like that should always be a united front. I think that we consider ourselves as a group who has been elected to represent all players, no matter what our particular play styles might be. I think that, and I know I will take that responsibility quite seriously, and I would hope to be able to work with everyone on the CSM to present a united front. That would always be the first response. If that's impossible, then we're all going to have our own work buddies and things that we're going to get along with better than others, I suppose. But I think the idea really is that you get to whatever it takes to get that point across. If you feel that strongly about it, then even if it's only you, if it's 9 against 1, you still have to stand for that thing that you feel is important. You may be overruled, but at least you had your time in the sun. You had your chance to debate it.
I agree with Rick's mostly. I think that the CSM is only at its strongest if they're all talking with each other and listening to each other's problems, because the thing that I find about EVE players is that they're really, really, really good at what they do. So if somebody is in nullsec, they're really, really good at the activities and lifestyle of nullsec living. If somebody's in lowsec, they're usually pretty good at the lowsec mechanics, bouncing the gate guns, things that maybe somebody who's purely nullsec might not understand as well, and the low-sec person wouldn't understand living in low-sec as well. And we're all the same game, and there are changes that affect pretty much all of us. Things like industry change affects every player of the game, and CSM is at its strongest when it has people from all over the areas of EVE, whether it be low-sec, null-sec, high-sec, wormholes, Potchman, and they're talking together, trying to find proposals that will, or responses to proposals that will address as many of the problems they might have as possible. Because even though I'm from low-sec, I can't go in there thinking I only have to worry about low-sec. I don't want to kill wormholers to give myself a slight benefit, for example.
I think both Rix and Arcia have really good points there. I think one of the things that people who are effective in the CSM have to be able to do is go in with the realization that changes that happen in nullsec affect lowsec and vice versa. How structures get anchored and where they can be placed has had a huge impact on lowsec, because the pirate lifestyle and a lot of the experiences of people there get deeply impacted when you have a Fortizar next door, and people who are either fleeing certain nullsec regions, no names mentioned here, or others can roll in with 20 supers onto your low-sec piracy lifestyle. Well, your options are dock up in an NPC station, or run, or safe log and wait for them to go away. But you're not in a place unless you team up with other big groups in low-sec, Waffles, dock workers, whoever, and then try to take out that Keepstar. But then you're fighting asymmetrically with a much larger group who's better organized, who has more resources. What's the counter to that? How do we make that balanced? How do we make that gameplay engageable and fun for people in low-sec again? And what about FAC War? There's just so many things that haven't been touched and haven't been balanced in consideration with their impacts in the other regions of space, because nothing exists in a void in EVE. And we have a lot of developers that, because they only know the boundaries of their own job, they're all wearing blinders unique to their own positions, just like every player who's coming to the CSM is playing from their particular play style. They don't realize that when they punch in their sandbox, they're kicking sand in somebody else's.
That's a good point.
I'm sitting here reading chat. It's very interesting.
I kind of have a question, but it's a real evil question.
Do it.
Ooh, evil? Evil?
It's
You have to go
It's-
blah,
it's-
ha 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 at the end.
it's an evil question. It's because I don't want to be going down the whole road of trying to ask you how you would be a sort of a part-time game developer for CCP, because that's not meant to be that's not the role of the CSM. The role of the CSM is to thwart dumb ideas from CCP and turn them into something that's usable and beneficial for the game, kind of thing. But it's also, a lot of it is interpersonal sort of relationship building and stuff like that, and understanding where your strengths and weaknesses lie. So turning a very typical classic interview question of what is your strength, what do you feel is your greatest strength and greatest weakness, into something a little bit more interesting. I'd love to know what you think each other's strengths and weaknesses are. So say Arcia, sort of what Jurius's strengths and weaknesses are. Jurius, what you think Rix's strengths and weaknesses are. And obviously, Rick, what you think Arcia's strengths and weaknesses are.
That's super evil. Jeez.
It is
I love
evil.
it.
I told you, man.
I love it.
It's like the
Where's the
fruits of evil.
Cue
a
evil
go for
laugh
it.
and dramatic Halloween music.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I went
I'll
straight
give you guys
to,
a
you
bit
know.
to think, obviously, but the other kind of thing that I thought was hilarious was Juris, when you were saying like people who are telling you why are you running. I could not but think of the meme, "Why are you running?" And it just had me
Yes.
giggling. I don't know
The
why.
wolf is watching the human run. What are you running from? Is something chasing you? Why do you run, Apex Predator?
All right. It's a tough question. That's a tough question.
It's a tough question, and it's an evil question. No.
I mean, I welcome your guys' feedback on why you think I'm running and what my strengths are. I'm happy to give it the same.
Yeah, who's going to start this though? That's the question.
Okay, I'll start. I'll give 3 bullets on each of you, on Rix and on Arcia. So Arcia, I think greatest strength, greatest weakness is that you are all about the story-driven content and engagement with the community and making EVE even more awesome than it already is. The weakness is that I think that a lot of the people in the community will unfairly use that as a reason to not vote for you, which I think is the worst insult that they can pay you, because you are an awesome person to be advocating for that in front of CCP. And I think you're also really good at it. And you are an excellent streamer, and you're somebody that people know. So there's a lot of good reasons to have you on the CSM. You carry the voice and connection with the community. But yes, there are people who will go filthy role player and just ignore you. And it's a detriment to you that shouldn't be there. For Rix, you know CCP a lot. You know them well. You are a well-known name. You're an artist that everybody loves. I mean, I have 3 of your posters I printed off on A3 and are hanging on my wall right now. I printed off on a Xerox phaser printer.
Awesome.
Literally in my room next to me. And I have more in a tube next to my desk that I haven't even hung up yet. The problem is that you have some bad blood with CCP going back a ways, and there's some people there that don't like you. And I think as much as you are somebody who is known, you are somebody who is known. And it just like with Arcia, it can go both ways. And if I was going to talk about myself, I'd say it's 100% the same thing that both of you have. I'm known for writing extremely critical articles of CCP in INN. I have taken the boots to them over the industry changes, but I kind of treat them like I treat my brother. I will always be unfairly critical of my brother, and I will always be the older brother who hits on his bad ideas. But I also love him to bits and want to see him succeed. And I feel that way about CCP.
I'm going to alter what you said just a little bit. I wouldn't use the term unfairly critical of CCP.
I feel like I'm being unfairly critical, but I'm also my biggest critic.
They deserve it. They deserve it sometimes.
They do. They do. As you know, everybody knows my position, so there you go.
And luckily for me, almost everybody there who I had an issue with is gone now, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think
they do turn over quite a.
Business is business, and people need to grow up about those things.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so yeah,
also, don't break contract. Anyway,
yeah. I remember that whole fiasco.
What a mess.
Rex, are you buying time?
Buying time? No, I'll start right now.
All right,
I'll start right now. I'll go and leave. And Arcia could go last. And
That's right. You slam her too hard, she's going to nail you guys.
She could use luxurious. I say just rephrase it. So that would be great.
I hate being mean to people.
I know, right?
That's not being mean. That's not. Yeah. And I don't think Jurius was mean either.
No. I don't have anything mean to say about either of these two people, my fellow candidates. I really, mostly what I want out of this CSM run is to see LoSec and independent candidates get more seats on the CSM. I think that, typically every year, 6 to 8 seats go to null block candidates, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that, we get Mike Azariah gets a seat, and then there's one other seat, maybe 2 for independent candidates. What I would really like to see is a more like 4 or 5 seats for independent candidates. LoSec needs representation, and so does Faction Warfare. So, I don't have anything negative to say about Arcia or Jurius, because Jurius I've known for a very long time. I admire his dedication to the NPE and the new player experience and all that. I don't know Arcia, so I don't have anything to say about her negative because I just don't know. I don't know her, so I don't watch Twitch streams of people playing video games. I watch a lot of Twitch streams. Don't get me wrong, but I don't watch people playing video games because if they're playing, I should be playing. So
there you go.
Which I do as much as I possibly can. So that's just my free time. But I don't. Everything I know about Arcia is awesome. She's great. She's very personable, and she obviously knows. Look, everybody that's running for CSM is an expert, right? So we're all experts at something. And I honestly, I would, if I had something negative to say about somebody, I would certainly know. As everybody knows, I speak my mind, but I don't have anything negative to say.
I mean, Arcia has like beaten CCP Swift in a tournament, aka
right,
Elise Randolph. So
yep,
that's definitely a positive.
That is a positive, yes.
Yeah, but he had it coming.
He certainly did.
Can I tell you the story of that?
Sure.
Yes, please do.
All right. So 2015, it was the Amar tournament. After the Empress Jam Jams got made into Jam Jam by the Drifters. So back then I was a lot more introverted and I didn't go outside of my immediate bubble of the people I played EVE with. And our first opponent in the tournament was another militia group that I was really worried about because I knew they were good because they were another militia group that I had experience with. And if we won, our opponent would most likely have been somebody named Elise Randolph, who I had never heard of before in my life, and wasn't worried about them because back then I was a lot more I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but I really only valued the things I did in EVE. So I looked at nullsec people like, what's somebody from nullsec going to do without their 2,000 closest friends to back them up, right? Ooh. And like I was completely wrong about that, right? Like I obviously started talking to people from other areas of space and getting to know a lot more about the various areas of space, and everybody's like really, really good at what they do. And obviously in the last tournament, we didn't do so great in the anger games, but we had one person on our team who knew who Elise was and like was super worried. And I'm like, and like the whole internet was against us. And then we won. And I have a silver magnate. So
there you go. I love that comment. What is a nullsecker going to do without 2,000 of their closest friends?
Right. But
I like it.
After that, I became friends with Elise because we met at Iceland in 2016, and I started talking to him.
That is one of the more unique things I think about EVE that you don't really see in other games because number one, the scale isn't there, right? That's first and foremost.
Right.
And when we all go someplace, we all end up being friends, right? There are not many people, I think, that you have the big arguments or somebody's drunk and has a fist fight or something stupid like that, right? Everybody just sits there and hangs out, and I think that's one of the coolest things about EVE. It really is.
You forgot and steals PL's flag because
yes, well,
I mean it's a tradition.
Everybody knows I don't particularly like Sothersil either. Bit of a challenge to be nice to him. That's a joke, guys, by the way. And by the way, just to remind everybody who joined late, right? Jurius's picture is wrong. That's not him. That's not how you spell his name. That was Eric's mistake under the gun trying to get everything ready at the beginning, and he wouldn't let me change it. Like, he could stop me, but still, he wanted it to stay because he liked the hair. Just pointing it out.
Yeah. He wishes he looked like that.
Yeah.
Juris Doctor, if you're watching, this might come as a surprise to you, but congratulations, you're running for the CSM.
That's right. Just to add confusion to the pile.
There you go.
So I know that proposing ideas to CSM or from CSM to CCP is not really the function of our being there. And it's one of the things I love to remind people. But you do get some FaceTime with the devs, and sometimes you can run a good idea across their desk. And if they like it and they have time to do it, they're going to try. And some of the best ideas that made it into the game, simple fixes, are things that came up as a, oh, hey, by the way, kind of conversation over coffee. What is one thing each of you, if you had just 5 minutes with a dev, a simple fix, a little thing, as it were, that you'd like to have added to the game that isn't there now, that you think would be easy for CCP to accommodate?
I'll start. Rat aggro in Faction Warfare Plexus. Easiest thing in the world. Turn it back on. Let's get Faction Warfare started down the right path towards fixing it finally. And that would be a simple flip of a switch that could be done immediately and would help a lot.
Anything on your side?
On the same note, don't just make the rat aggro, but make the rat scram.
Well, yeah.
Points.
Yeah.
Great scram,
in Faction
whatever. Yeah.
Warfare, 'cause
Apply the new weaponized AI in Plexus. Absolutely.
maybe
that's
not
great.
scram, because that could break MWD fits entirely, but
Yeah.
make it like a long point. So if you're affecting the Plex, you're basically pointed. Kind of maybe like a point version of the ESS. So like,
Well, why
you're
not
affect-
just have an ESS field? Like make all the Plexus have a 150 kilometer radius field where you can't warp.
Well, we're getting off into a whole bunch
that's fine if
easy
it can't warp, but the ESS scrams you specifically, and I don't want to kill MWD play entirely in the Plexus.
Obviously the Plexes need a lot of love. They need to be redone. Beauty wise, we have abyssal space, for God's sakes. We haven't touched the inside of a Plex, in 10 years. It's ridiculous.
Right?
So yeah, but an easy fix is to start that. That would be like simple. They could do it tomorrow, and it would help when we could get moving down another path here.
I think if we could also add some differentiating features between the different sizes of Plexus, in the sense that like have them have different attributes.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, when you look at all the new stuff that they've brought in, how beautiful it is, and how freaking ugly Plexes are in LoSAC. It's a crime that hasn't been touched in so long. There should be some really awesome things going on. And, I've talked about it before too, with AI NPCs and Diamond Rats, and, some of the things that they could do, to get players interested, joining NPC fleets or helping out, or just the amount of gameplay that's possible is incredible. And so that needs to go, but that's a whole other discussion.
Well, it's been 11 years since they touched Plexus, so definitely overdue love.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing they've had was the gate activation change, like the range of the acceleration gate activation, where you can warp to like 90 and activate.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I want to tell each of you that I appreciate you going off on tangents, which is the hallmark of this show, by the way. However, chat has requested that Arcia, you give your opinions of Jurius and Rix.
She tried to get away with it.
I thought I got away with it. I thought I got away with it by talking about beating Elise in a tournament.
Yeah, you didn't. Sorry.
Distract everybody.
Hey, this is a hard news show. Okay, you have to understand that we drive home the tough questions.
I think Rix's strength is that he is a good PvPer. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He knows the mechanics of the game. EVE mechanics are very difficult sometimes to wrap your head around, especially some of the janker LoSAC mechanics and such like that. And Jurius's strengths are that he has a wide breadth of knowledge, and is very, very good at vocalizing his thoughts and feelings about things he has an issue with. He's a very good communicator. Like, I'm not the best at speaking sometimes, but when Jurius is talking, he seems to really drive home the point he's making very succinctly, and it's communication is a key aspect of being on the CSM, because if you can't communicate the idea that's in your head, then they won't know what you want out of anything. As far as the cons, I don't know. Like,
I'll do this one for you. I talk too much.
maybe you are too good of a communicator.
He tells a very long and complicated story.
There you go. There you go.
Very, very good communicator. Needs to work on the listening part. Now, just I don't even know that that's true. So yeah, maybe Jurius talks too much.
It's not unfair.
Right? And Rick's, I feel like Rick's kind of has the same thing that I do, where you go off on tangents sometimes and the point is lost a little.
That's fair.
Is it really a CSM if you're not going a tangent sometimes, though?
Probably not. I mean, I like that. That reminds me of this one time when I was in Canada. No.
One time at band camp.
I think my biggest drawback is that I sound too much like Villy.
You know what? Now that you say that, that's probably my biggest problem with you. Yeah.
I will say you all missed a really great impromptu CSM interview yesterday. We were all in the Talking Stations public chat, and it was just me and Caleb just talking in there, and then everybody else decided to just jump in, and then Billy and Brisk and a couple of like one or two other like current CSM people popped in and just started talking about the job, and I was like, well, this is more informative than any show that we've the one thing, sorry, I haven't been here much, but I did hear McLeod bring up that the CSM, you get to build some of those relationships that can help strengthen your position in game, as well as your understanding about the other areas that you may not know a bunch about. But that didn't really work out for Stork Dragon, did it?
Ooh. Oh. Feels a little bit like a low blow.
I'm just saying, like, everybody was thinking it.
I mean, you're not wrong. Everybody was thinking it, but
I mean,
Don, chat is suggesting that you fix your damn audio.
Oh, I'm at a concert or something right now, so.
A concert?
Or something.
It's a city fair thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm gonna go down to the arts festival and start talking.
It's not raining.
Yeah. How is that happening? Sorry, inside Pittsburgh joke for those of you not here. Sorry.
One of the questions I want to ask every person who's running for CSM is it's a two-part question. The first part is, how are you going to respond to seeing how the sausage is made? And the second is, what are you going to do when you don't like it? Like, how do you internalize that? Because we've had every CSM, there seems to be one person who joins and immediately nopes the hell out of there. And this year was definitely Torvald. I mean, I hate to say it, it's unfair to say this about him. That last stream he was on with CCP, he looked like he was in physical pain being on the stream.
Yeah. I think that you're right. I think almost every year we have one or two. I think it's about, we all know that most of the players sort of have a slightly misunderstood about what the CSM's role is. And I think that translates into, because that's where the CSM candidates come from, right? The player base. So I think there's always a few who probably think it's going to be a little different when they get on. And obviously last year was extraordinarily difficult for everybody. There was a lot of stress and no player meets and no in-person meetings. And, it was a rough year all over. So I give everybody a pass on last year. But I think the expectations are probably difficult for some, and what you do and how it all works and what's actually involved and how much time it takes, to be good at your job. So I think that probably takes a lot of people by surprise.
I think that I've been playing this game for over a decade now, and I've run into so many things I've disliked that have changed, and so many things that I've liked that have changed, that I probably am not going to be too surprised when maybe the sausage is being made in ways that aren't particularly appealing at times. Like, I think that Rix is right in that people misunderstand or have different expectations about what the CSM is. And that's why I one of the reasons why I never ran before this year is I didn't have the time. It's something that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication, because I had a regular job where I had to go to work at specific times, and I had a certain amount of time off. I couldn't be off at all the times that I would have needed to be. Now I have a very flexible schedule, and I am ready to basically work for free, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work.
Definitely an unpaid internship.
It's literally an unpaid internship. Yeah, it's
might be a little more than that.
I think my expectations are pretty much where they should be, and that I won't be hit with any kind of strong negative reactions to what is going on if I'm elected.
Here you are making me wish I wasn't running. We said you guys missed the pre-show chat, but we were talking about the fact that one of my biggest pet peeves is unpaid internships, and here I am running for one.
There you go.
Yeah, it's one of those things though. I think a lot of people who run for CSM, and this is my 4th year running, and I've built relationships with a lot of the existing and incumbent CSMs, is that just how much work it is, and how many the running, the campaigning, the stuff we're doing now. This is 2 to 3 weeks of our year. It really is not that much, not that much time, but the 300 or 400 hours of meetings that successful candidates will have over the next 9 months before we start this all over again. Yeah, I think that's the thing that people are unprepared for when they think about actually running for CSM. And I think one of the things that's helped to improve the quality of the candidates that we're starting to see year over year is that there is a better conversation and dialogue around what CSM is responsible. And incumbents have been doing a better job of communicating just how much hard work and what a pain it can be to do this job.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, we have about 15 minutes left, but I don't want to say this at the end. I want to say this now. And it doesn't matter. Every candidate for CSM, this is truly how I view what you are doing. Having done certain things in life, volunteered for groups, done all those type of things, putting yourself out there in a very public way for something like the CSM. There are going to be people who like you and people who don't like you, people who treat you nicely, people who are just rude. Right? And there's no reason to be rude, but people do it, right? And whether you make it there or you don't make it there, right? And if you make it there, you're going to encounter the same thing. So some of the putting yourself out there knowing that you can make some quote unquote enemies for positions that you have, or people may not say nice things about you for positions you have. And by the way, you're volunteering a lot of your time to do that, right? I commend each of you and all the other candidates who aren't here for even doing that. I mean, that's a bold thing to do, and you're doing it for the game. I don't think anybody really does it for personal gain, by and large. There may be a few over the years, but certainly. When you look at what you're doing and you want to do it for the good of the game, and then you get ridiculed for it, it's tough, it's challenging, it's mentally challenging. So thank you for putting yourselves out there and doing this. I appreciate it. That's why, we don't, when people come on this show, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is a, Imperium Goon oriented show. Those of us who host and co-host it, we are on that side and we believe in that. But when we have people who don't, we always treat them politely, and hopefully you feel that. We're not trying to call you out on anything or make you look bad either. That's just not how we work, because too many other people do that to everybody. So that's all. So thank you for everything that you do and that you're doing.
Thank you, Eric. Well said. Yeah, thank you.
So now that he said that we're not going to call you out for anything, I'm going to come here with the last prepared question.
Nice.
No, I mean, to put them on, like, you ask questions that are legitimate of every CSM. I mean, that's, we don't do something to target people. That's what I meant. Go ahead, Zod.
Let me have my segue, okay?
All right, go ahead. Fine. Told you I don't like that guy.
Right. Total hypothetical here. Let's say you are on the CSM, you got elected, and you have a player approaching you with a problem they found in the latest Sissy build, right? I even got an example for you here. When CCP was changing faxes so that they would have stacking penalties on their reps, a player found out that change broke that you cannot rep dreads in Siege. So let's say this player comes to you and is like, hey, on the latest Sissy build, you can now rep dreads while they're in Siege. I don't know if that's intended or not, but it shouldn't be because it's completely broken, right? How would you deal with that? What would you say to the player? How would you approach CCP? What else would you do?
I guess I'll go first.
I was going to let you go first. I've been doing that a lot. So
yeah, no. In that particular case, and there's the person comes to me and says, "Okay, cool. Here's the situation we've observed." The first question I would ask is, were you able to replicate it? Did it happen more than once in CC? Second question I'd ask is, do you know what day and time it happened? And the third question is, have you sent a copy of your logs, screenshots, and a detailed description as a bug report by pressing F12 on your game client, clicking go to the support panel, and opening a new ticket? If you've done those things, then cool, give me an export of those logs and send me your screenshots, and I'll bring it up in the next meeting.
I should probably add that the changes were slated to go live within 1 to 2 days at that point.
Even so, you still need to create a ticket because otherwise they have nothing to track against, and they have internal policies that they have to observe so that they can show their work and show that they're doing their jobs. And as somebody who works in IT, always create a ticket.
So, yeah, you pretty much have to go through the bug report system, at least at first. But obviously you get all the details. I would honestly try to see if I could replicate it myself on CC after hearing all the details and ensuring that they got the bug report ticket. Since sometimes when I'm just trying to talk off the cuff, I feel like I struggle, I would probably record myself doing it and make it as like a, not like a presentation, but just like a video that shows and explains what's going on to present it, because I'm not always the best communicator just talking off the cuff.
Ricks?
Yeah, Jurius is absolutely correct. There's steps that you have to take. Just yesterday I had a Steam player whose account was locked out. Contact me on Twitter, DM me, said, I can't get into my account. Nobody's answering me at CCP. What do I do? So I immediately forwarded that to Deadlift and Ice Cream, and we got a dev on it. And I think, hopefully that's all been solved now. There are ways around the system too. If I feel like something's super important, I'll just send it to a dev, logs, screenshots, repeated, all that kind of stuff, report it. But, do I want to wait till the next CSM meeting? When is that? Is that 90 days from now or next week or whatever? Sometimes it needs to be dealt with right away. So, yeah, there's ways to get around that. And I do it all the time. People contact me with problems and I pass it on to the right person at CCP to get it dealt with. And and it does. So
Yeah, I mean, I can give it I can give an example too. Like, I have people who contact me and they're like, I found about your YouTube channel. I've watched your training videos on how to do things. I'd love to take advantage of your, recruit friend plan, but I joined through Steam and those skill points don't apply for me. Is there a way that I can reach out to the devs and get those points applied? And I said, yeah, you have to submit a ticket. And then I submit a ticket. And then I mentioned that, yes, I am authorizing you to become a referred buddy on my plan. And then they do their business on their side. But if both of us don't submit a ticket, they have nothing to validate that the request is legitimate and that you've contacted me.
Exactly.
And then,
Right.
after the tickets are submitted, you can just submit the ticket number to whoever it needs to go to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you drop that in Discord and you ping Dopamine or Deadlift or somebody, they're super responsive. Like, if you're in a Discord with the devs, even if they don't answer you, yeah, I can pretty much guarantee they're looking at it.
By the time they do answer, yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're all trying to do.
They're awesome. It's a great team right now.
It's unlike any other game I've ever played where the devs are so super stoked to talk with the players.
Yeah.
Don't hassle Aurora too much. She already has to put up with all the tournament people.
Yeah.
Like Sloth.
He has enough to
Yes.
worry about right now. Yes.
So we have a CSM incumbent who's in chat right now, and he asked, and I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to talk about this. He said, I'd be interested to hear what JD thinks about EVE Academy. I like what EVE Academy is. Obviously, it's kind of early days and it's nascent. And it's like a lighter dipping the toes of the water compared to EVE University's wiki. The wiki is still the best source of information in the game, but it is. I think it was Roughage or somebody made the point that it's there, but it's dense. Like, the EVE University wiki is dense. You want to really confuse yourself if you're not a big math person, go look at the gunnery mechanics page on EVE University wiki. It gets into the mathematical formulas for calculating, your chance to hit with radial velocity. For a lot of people, that's dense. I like the EVE Academy, and situations like that are perfect examples how the UI could be revised, because there's no reason why radial velocity and gunnery chance couldn't be simplified through a simple UI change and UX change.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
So I think that the fact that CCP is finally starting to take onboarding people and helping people learn to play this game and see all the things that are possible, like Altru's large career maps of EVE that came out in 2016 with all the different possible things you can do with the game and whether or not you had to be alpha or a mega player to play. Like that, but synthesized into a website with a few hints. I think Academy is a good start. I also don't think that CCP should ever be in the position of trying to supplant resources like EVE University's wiki.
I do think that the Academy is definitely a good foot forward because a lot of players will try out EVE and get lost almost immediately and then stop playing EVE. And a lot of people do kind of write them, like a lot of players seem to unfairly write those people off as they weren't cut out for the game. They weren't cut out. They couldn't have played EVE, but I don't think that's actually the case. Myself, I failed to get into EVE like 3 or 4 times with trial accounts before I just subscribed and was just stubbornly decided I'm going to learn this game. And I like flailed around like an idiot for like a year before I started finding my way into circles where people would help me out. And I think taking the new player experience seriously and building something like EVE Academy that it shouldn't supplant UniWiki, but maybe it should be an easy to access and understand way to get off the ground. That sometimes UniWiki comes off as intimidating to a brand new player. Which is how I feel about UniWiki. It just, once you get off the ground, it's a lot easier to keep going in your EVE community, in your EVE career. And a lot of people just need a little help getting off the ground and getting into. I think one of the best things it does is it mentions like corps and alliances that are new player friendly, because it's hard to find a corp in game. The corp interface is like completely broken, and a lot of people who don't find a good corp just end up floundering.
Or worse, playing alone when they don't need to be. We're operating
Yeah.
I mean,
in the dark.
we all know the data says, the faster you make friends in Eve, the longer you stay. So anything that can help that process along, I think, is good for the game. Go ahead.
Like the actual quote was that a new player joining a player-run corporation is 10 times more likely to stay in Eve.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. As long as Eve Academy doesn't get abandoned and never touched again, I think it could be awesome.
That's the thing. It's something that has to be continuously built on and not just dropped and forgotten.
All right. Hey, we're done.
Yeah. And I know we're almost out of time, but special thanks to Aurora and the community team for all the work they're doing to make things like Eve Academy become a realization. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I think in general, for a long time, Eve has relied too much on third-party, tools. And I think third-party tools are incredible, and I think there's a lot of really great things, but I think some of that learning can be translated in-game as well, because new players may not know about those third-party tools, right?
I think that having stuff built in-game is super, super helpful. I think most brand new players aren't going to go out of game at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're not going to go out of game until somebody tells them where to look, and having nothing built in the game makes it just so much harder to fail at Eve.
Even early day hints like get out of the starter systems so that you don't end up in overfished ponds.
Right.
Like that should be the number one thing on the Eve Academy right at the top. Do not stay in the starter systems. There are only 12 of them. There's 100,000 of you a month. Move.
Alrighty. Let's see. We generally do at the very end of the show, folks, we do a one last thing kind of thing. And I'm going to give each of you that opportunity here as we go, because we're at the end already. And I'm sorry we started late. I do apologize for that. Just a couple things technically wrong on my end that I had to fix. So, Rix, I'll start with you on the one last thing.
So, what about one last thing about what? Me?
Anything you want. One last thing is whatever you want to say.
Words.
Yeah, your parting words.
Okay. Well, again, like I said before, 47 candidates. They're all experts at something, and most of them I've met in real life, and that's fantastic. How do you decide who to vote for? I don't know. So here's the thing: if experience, real world experience, working with groups like the CSM in the past, being on board of directors, being a CEO of my own corporation out here in the real world, not just in Eve, bringing a lot of experience to the table, having worked with CCP on special projects and real world projects since 2014, currently working on the Eve store with a third party in Los Angeles. If any of that matters, being an independent voice, representing LowSec, faction warfare, the Alliance, trying to bring back the Alliance tournament, for goodness sakes. If any of that matters, then I would really appreciate your vote. So thank you.
All righty. Thanks, Rix. Garcia?
So, as was said, almost everybody on the CSM is built. And I think one of the things CSM direly needs is a representation of gameplay areas and styles that don't always get representation on the council. We all live in the same game universe, and all of our gameplay styles, whether you're in high, low, null, wormholes, or wherever else, or station trading, everybody is valid in the gameplay. Whether you are a nullsec fleet warrior, a small gang PvPer, a miner, a ganker, or an industrialist. We share the same game, the same mechanics, and our actions have impact on one another, and we should share the same council. I think I am uniquely positioned to represent two communities, both the RP lore community and the LOSEC faction warfare community, that don't always get representation on the council. So whether or not you vote for me, I thank you for listening, and I thank you guys for having me on.
Jurius?
Well, I'll start by saying that in the forums under the Council Stellar Management, there's a section called Jita Park where people can raise their points and issues for the CSM. I created a forum post in there 2 weeks ago about who I thought should be on your ballot based on my recommendations, and both of these individuals sharing the show with me today are on my list of recommendations. I think you should be voting for them. And obviously me too, because duh. I'm obviously going to recommend that you vote for me, but all levity aside, they really are. Rix and RC are excellent people. They bring valued and unique views about how the game can be improved. I think that they bring calm and excellent energy to the CSM. I think they're both incredibly reasonable and very, very nice people, and not afraid to speak their mind. And not in a way that makes them sound like a dick. And there always needs to be one of those. And Phantomite is on my list for that reason, because we need a 10th man. We need that person who's going to be the persistent and consistent objector, who's willing to pour salt in the eye. And he does that very well. And I think if I could say one thing for the people who are watching, is just continue being the best gaming community in all of gaming, because you're the ones who bring us here, and you're the ones who keep us engaged in getting out of bed in the morning, and we love you.
Alrighty, that's great. Hey, thank you for coming on the show and spending some time this afternoon or day or night or wherever you are, because we are a global community, which is amazing. Soth, do you have one last thing?
Oh yeah, I do.
All right, go for it.
I want to give a little shout out to Caleb here. Get well soon, right? We missed you today, but you're still wrong.
I didn't miss him. Not at all. Not even a little. Yeah, thanks. My one last thing is thank you to the audience. Thank you for all the continuing subs that I saw fly up there at the end, and all the follows that I saw throughout the show. Really appreciate it. We kind of do this show just to have fun and hang out with our internet friends, of which you all are. So thank you for watching. Thank you to everybody who's on the show. And with that said, Meta Show is up in about an hour, 55 minutes or so.
Guys.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. Everybody say bye. Bye.
Bye.
All right. We are out of here.